Hello again, I am Blunty, and that is the Gigabyte Xtreme Gaming Geforce GTX960. In the video that preceded this one, I have for you a full review and rundown on it, and a bunch of gameplay of course. If you haven't seen it yet, long story short, it's a superb example of the GTX960, and the out-of-the-box overclock combined with the extra headroom of its doubled memory, 4GB up from the standard 2 of a 960, really helped it kick a surprising amount of ass all over the place. And I'll be giving this card away too, so pay attention. Now then, that out-of-the-box overclock, which is about 10% over stock clocks, isn't the end of the story, and what I showed you in the last video when it came to gameplay performance, impressive as it was for a 960, wasn't even the best it can do. So today I'll be showing you what pushing the card a little further can do. Now, first, let's paint in a frame of reference. The factory stock clocks on a Geforce GTX 960 are 1127 MHz base clock and 1178 MHz boost. The Gigabyte Xtreme Gaming Edition is amped up to 1279 base and 1342 boost in its standard gaming mode. There is a one-click overclock in Gigabyte's OC Guru 2 software too that will ping it up a smidge more to 1304 base and 1367 boost. Now, those are the speeds guaranteed to work perfectly right out of the box, no fiddling, no worries, hit a button, away it goes. Gigabyte's Xtreme Gaming line of cards use chips from their Gauntlet program to make sure they'll cope with, at the very minimum, these kinds of overclocks. Now, every chip in any given video card will overclock just a bit differently. Some will choke out sooner than others, some will boost way higher than others. It's what habitual overclockers call the silicon lottery. So when it comes to manual overclocking, with some experimentation, I found this particular card overclocks without the slightest issue to a very amusing 1337 MHz base and 1400 boost. And to be frank with you, there is a little bit more headroom above this by a few more megahertz or so, but that 1337 clock was too funny to me to leave alone. I also pushed the memory clock speed up from 7010 MHz all the way up to a flat 8 GHz. So all in all, we're kicking up to just under 19% faster boost clock over the factory stock of a GTX 960. But what does that mean in the real world? I mean, big numbers are fun and everything, and I love when numbers get bigger and bigger and bigger, except on my phone bill. Oh, and I guess people who play golf don't like the numbers to get bigger. But, in most things, in gaming and overclocking, when the numbers get bigger, the smiles get bigger. But we need to see what this actually does to games. So, benchmarks, then gameplay. In the demanding Firestrike Xtreme benchmark, we pulled in an extra 265 points over what we're getting before. Under the standard Firestrike benchmark, another 539 were pulled up from nowhere. The Heaven Xtreme and Valley Xtreme benchmarks tell similar stories of a moderate but significant push up the scale. And as you can see here, in all cases, the card was no hotter. That means the fans were not spinning any faster, and therefore it was no louder than its out-of-box configurations. And as we discovered in that first video, that's fantastic news because this card is already very quiet. The Tomb Raider benchmark with ultimate settings in general saw the game spend far more time above 60 frames per second for an even smoother experience still when you're using VSync or better yet a G-Sync monitor. And even though this is a comparatively modest overclock, it's this kind of kick up the bum that can really make a very pleasant difference to the gaming experience. And it's the same kind of thing over on Rise of the Tomb Raider and high settings. The maximum frame rates get a jump along, but it's the minimums that matter more here. Pushing those up will really help deliver a smoother experience, especially again with G-Sync and the like. The overclock also brings GTA 5 from hovering just below 60 frames per second to staying comfortably above it almost the whole time, with only very occasional dips into the high 50s. We are in high settings here, and I've manually pushed up the population density and variety because, as I mentioned in the first video, the doubled memory on board makes this card much more comfortable in GTA 5 than a more common 2GB model. In Doom, under Ultra settings by the way, again, not something I found is ideal with the standard 2GB model of GTX 960 if you're looking to target 60 frames per second. And here the overclock makes a slightly more subtle but still significant and noticeable difference. In my tests it wasn't uncommon to see the frame rates more or less the same in a lot of places, but as you can see the overclock gives us just enough headroom to regularly see up to a 10 frames per second difference. Just Cause 3 in high settings is similar to Doom as far as the results go anyway. Again, the 4GB of RAM makes this game noticeably smoother than a standard GTX 960, and add the manual overclock to that and the same story plays out. It's a moderate difference on paper of 5 to 20 frames per second or so, but in-game it's certainly a noticeable boost to the feeling of fluidity and general smoothness of gameplay. Now, I'll be honest here, I was hoping to squeeze out just a bit more from the overclock. My Gigabyte flavors of my GTX 970 and GTX 980 Ti both have a Gigabyte Gauntlet sorted chip just like this one, and I struck it very lucky in the silicon lottery, with both of them taking in overclocks well above average. That said, I'm hardly disappointed here on this GTX 960. We got almost a 20% boost over stock clocks, and again, combine that with the doubled memory of a stock 960, and this GTX 960 will easily outperform most others. And it does so at nearly silent sound levels as well. And let's not forget, it does all this while looking friggin' amazing in a showcase with its RGB fan rings and such. Now, so you've made it to the end of the video, thank you for that. I'm going to tell you how you can be in for a chance to win this card, this very card as a matter of fact. And sorry, international types, but this time around I'm giving all of the love to us often neglected Aussie and Kiwis. And I'm sorry, I know that's annoying, but please don't whine and bitch at me too much. I've done plenty of international giveaways. This one's just for the Aussies and Kiwis. So, your job now, my fellow Aussies, and those of you over in Australia Junior, is to head along to the Geforce Australia and New Zealand community forums. There's a link in the video description to take you to the exact post you'll need to reply to be in for a legitimate chance to win. And leave a reply on that post describing how you would use this visually striking video card in a build to show it off best. I'll pick what I think is the best answer in 6 weeks from right now, that's July 2nd, after we've all decompressed a bit from what I'm sure will be a very extraordinarily exciting E3 this year. I'll contact the winner with the forum's private message system, get your address and send the card out to you. Easy as that. So, as per usual, please throw your thoughts in my down below area. Oh, and a thank you or two directed at the Aussie Gigabyte peeps wouldn't go too far astray either, because obviously they are the ones who threw this card at me to give it away to you guys. So please join me in thanking them for being just cool guys and gals, basically. They are good people and they make great stuff, so what's not to appreciate? Thanks for watching, I am Blunty, and I will catch you next time.